Hello, everybody. So today we're going to talk about episode 5, The Tangled Web. So if you guys probably aren't too unaware of the fact that our dragon riders were kind of dysfunctional in our previous episode. Unfortunately, unfortunately, that means that for good story writing, we're not going to ignore that in this episode, which I will say that there's a lot better story writing in here than in some of the shows. Like some shows I've watched and everybody's been suggesting them to me. They literally have major characters die in one episode and then they're alive the next episode and nobody cares and I get so confused. This one we're keeping I can't say the word, but we're continuing on with that. At the same time, this is a believable, understandable growing pain that these characters would be going through that many of the younger audience that this show is directed towards will be going through with in such situations. So this is a good thing as long as that is not a state that is promoted, that we show how to get out of it. And here is an episode where we work on character growth, which is a big thing. And I really like that this show is trying to do a character growth. So we start off with some science experiments. We're working on tracking dragons, which is fun. I love experiments. I love tracking things. I love trackers. We have our terrible terror on the green crystal that we've seen earlier. I'm still very curious about the green crystal. Another thing is in this shot we see green mist. At first it looks like it was coming from the crystal, and I was wondering if we're like being shown steam or maybe there's minerals coming off of this crystal and the dragons heat them up and that's something that the dragons benefit from. It looks like it may actually be green light infused mist from a geyser or underneath. I'm kind of curious about this. I hope we learn more about the crystals later. I will say that like in the first like 3 minutes there were like 10 red flags off June, especially off of last time. I'm like she still has good intentions, but I'm definitely getting more and more unnerved and worried about her. Like I'm trusting her less with everything she says basically at this point. She's disrespecting boundaries, she's trying to control people. At the same time, now we have the whole this is how we are at the beginning of the episode. We have Tom and D'Angelo also kind of like stepping on each other's toes, more in a friendly way, but they're definitely butting heads a little bit. We have June and Alex being more closer, even though Alex seems a little bit unnerved about it, or not unnerved, but yeah, she tries to set boundaries, and June doesn't really care. Um, at that point, though, they then go up to the surface where there's a bird on a windmill and it's on a nest, and the nest isn't in the path of the blades, but apparently they're afraid it's going to get chopped in half. So Tom jumps up to save the bird because he is a person where in stressful situations he acts. That can be helpful in some situations, not helpful in this one. D'Angelo has to come and try to save him, where both of them have to get saved by Baker. This causes issues between him and his dad, which Tom gets frustrated about. And this starts causing a rift between Tom and D'Angelo. So now all of a sudden, not only do we have general control issues within the group, we now have D'Angelo's told to stay away from Tom, but he's still go running around doing the things with Tom. Like that's not what he meant. At the same time, it's just like These two are both. There's a lot of personal struggles in this episode, and this causes issues, especially when they come and they're exploring and they find a new dragon, our spider wing. Now, something that was fun, like, but we're getting characters who start showing they're really scared of the spider wing. We're really learning a lot about our characters and getting a lot of characterization from their reactions to this dragon. I honestly love this dragon. It's very interesting. It's a very cool. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts of this dragon. Like I have had a mm, episode planned for a while. I need to get that going once I have season 2, season 3 episodes done. But it is a very interesting dragon. June is scared of it. Alex loves it. The boys are just using it to butt heads and try to prove which one is better. The one thing I really liked, which was going in the correct direction, there's the whole question of what do we do with the Druce dragon? Do we go follow it? How do we help the dragon? We start getting, instead of the whole, like, there was a whole, like, we have to do this together, we have to do this as a team, and we can't come to a solution. We start getting it, the characters start getting it through their heads. It's okay to handle it differently according to each individual and setting, like, June sets boundaries. She will watch from way back there. She's not going to go because of a team. She's going to go by herself. That's what needs to happen for June. Alex is fine with it, so she goes to help. The other two cause chaos. They cause nuts. And of course, the dragon latches onto poor June's head. Now, one thing, like, please don't pull on a spider's leg. Like, oh my goodness, spiders are fragile. Spiders' legs are fragile. If you break their exoskeleton, they can die. Like, true, if you pull off a leg and you can get it to not bleed to death, they can eventually regrow their leg. But I'm like, no. Though true, this isn't a spider. This is a drag, again, that convergently evolves to have spider-like traits. This would be a very complicated evolutionary process, but and poor June, poor spider. Everybody calm down. Like, Alex is really stepping up to be the voice and the reason. Like, she is the one to listen to in this episode. But yeah, we have, you know, I think this would be a cool design for a bike helmet. Am I the only one who thinks that? But yeah. So yeah, the whole, like, June and Alex are the only ones who are thinking they're trying to get something done. They get stuck in the spider web. Now this, it's like, okay, these dragons are kind of an antagonistic form, but at the same time, they're just acting naturally. They're not the big bads. Like, as Alex says, they're misunderstood creatures. Most of them are harmless. There are some, not true, all of them have venom, except for people seem to get confused. They think that daddy longlegs are spiders. They're not. They're apiliones when spiders are in Araneae. But you can also tell because it's like daddy longlegs have one body segment and spiders have two. But honestly, there's a lot more to be scared about the house cat than a spider, than the dog in the house than a spider, than other people like than a spider. Like, honestly, the other kids in this, like, all the harm that's happening is because of the humans going nuts. But yeah, we have eggs. They're protecting the eggs. There are dragons which have reason to believe they might be evolutionary linked to these dragons, which have strong responses to trying to capture things that get too close to their eggs. There's also like a type of orb-weaver spider that lives communally in nests, very similar to this. So I wonder if this is related off of that or based off of that. Inspired. There we go. But that is interesting. One thing, like once again, June really pulls through with her knowledge of myths and legends. She brings on, okay, I need to make sure I say this correctly. Anansi. I loved stories of Anansi growing up, and he's so fun. He's like one of my favorite myth characters. And not only that, we went from her freaking out about spiders to she goes into that, she gets into her element, and she uses her knowledge from the myths and legends to trick a spider to crawl on her chest to help free herself and free Alex too. And that shows character growth. And like there's several things. Like we've got character growth with that. We have Tom and D'Angelo who are struggling butting heads over Tom is saying stop worrying about your dad, and D'Angelo is. And they have a really soulful conversation about the fact their different perspectives, their different upbringings, which give themselves different priorities, and they work on coming to an understanding, coming to an agreement on how they can help each other through their differences, through their different perspectives, so they can both succeed and help each other despite and use these different perspectives as strengths, not reasons to be at each other's throats. I love that. They then learn like to get through these webs. They can't just go at one way. They like it comes as a really good object lesson of they need to work together and not a through the objectified controlled fashion like they were trying to use last episode, but willingly step forward and give their all. But also sometimes the best way to work as a team is to work individually and split up. Like Alex and June split up and left the boys behind. Like sometimes the best time to work together is to divide and conquer. And sometimes it means stand up and stand together. And we got some really good step forwards because yeah, we had some backsliding last episode, but there's some really good things coming together to move forward from this. And we got some really cool dragons. And then D'Angelo comes and he's able to make amends with his dad because his mom was reminding him the fact that he was very similar and try to remember the perspective of himself at that age. And there's a whole lot of remember perspectives and emphasize with others and try to use differences to come together and bond instead of to tear apart, which was what was happening at the beginning of the episode. So we started with the obligatory train wreck from last episode, which honestly is a good story, a good character learning arc for people. There are some that I hope I don't need to learn at this point, but last episode and this episode really are kind of a two-part character building arc and showing good story building and ability to learn processes through it. We have good representation of multiple perspectives, different family structures, different fears, not fears, overcoming fears in different ways. Of bad choices lead to bad things, but coming together. Like, division is not a good thing, people. Like, just because you're different doesn't mean you have to hate each other, doesn't mean you can't work together, doesn't mean like difference is a beauty of this world. And it's this seeing others through the different perspectives and coming and learning how to work together with it is what's necessary. Like, if all of the dragons were like Horn, or all of them were like Thunder, or the web when it was broken, it's the fact that they all had different fire types that allowed them to combine into a fire type that could break the web. And that's what we need in society. Like, there is too much division, there's too much pain in the world, especially now. We can use it to butt heads, we can use it to hurt each other, or we can use it to rise up. And yeah. And like this is a pretty good strong episode. I really liked it. Please like, comment, subscribe. Um yeah. I'll be working on getting more content out soon, and have a wonderful day. Bye.